Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Alicia, and this is a radio show. Like I said, I'm really appreciative that you all are all here tonight. I hope you return when we're discussing some lighter topics. We typically have a lot of fun on this radio show, I promise. But tonight, we had some important things to discuss. A little bit about us. We're a women owned publication based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is a bi weekly ish radio show that we do. We got our start doing written content and photos and track reviews and event highlights and stuff like that. And we've kind of made the switch over to radio, finding that a lot of our audience. I was looking for a little bit more of an audio experience. So that kind of is what got us here. There are two ways you can be a part of tonight's episode. You either can tune in and listen right here on fuzztalkradio.com. You can also join our Discord chat on the Fuzz Talk Radio Discord server. If you're looking for the link to do that, you can find that probably on the same post that you found the link to listen. It's also in our bios and such like that across social media. We would love it if you join the Discord, but for tonight, we do have a few rules for tonight. Our station host, Fuzz, as well as my producer for the show, Jenna, will be moderating the chat. You can tag them if anyone violates any of these three rules. Oh, wow, this just feels so different from how we usually start these episodes. I'm sorry if I'm tripping over my words or anything. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. This felt like a big undertaking. Thus the rules for tonight. First off, we will not tolerate any victim blaming or discrediting victims of sexual violence. We will also not tolerate insulting each other. I don't care what side you're on. No negative comments on people's physical appearance or their intelligence. I don't think that is constructive to the conversation, and it just adds more harm. And lastly, this chat is not a place to disclose your trauma. And I know this final rule comes across as cold, but I can't guarantee that every person in this chat will respect your decision to disclose or handle the information with the tenderness and the love that it deserves. If you do want to show solidarity with something said on air, please feel free to comment "Me Too" or "I Believe Survivors." But I just really want to make sure that people's stories are protected in this space. If you feel like you do need to talk to somebody, you can reach out to RAIN or your local rape crisis hotline. RAIN is spelled RAINN. You can either chat online or you can call their number and they'll direct you to support. If Jenna or Fuzz could throw that link again in the chat, that would be very helpful. Another helpful resource can be your local mental health crisis line. And typically you can type into your search rape crisis line or mental health crisis line, and then the largest city near you, and you should be able to find a localized resource. A lot of these resources are 24/7, a localized support system. Sometimes support can go further than just a phone call or a chat thread. A lot of these places offer support groups and things you can get plugged in if you're in their area and under their grant funding and so forth. I just really wanted to put that out there for y'all. Before we got started, thank you so much in advance for kind of going by these guidelines and just being here. So in tonight's episode of This Is a Radio Show, we will be discussing Pyro's Eclipse Music and Arts Festival. The festival was slated to happen during the eclipse in April and has since been canceled due to public pushback when Nahko was announced as a headliner. This story does have disclaimers and trigger warnings that I also want to share. I'm sure when I shared the resource, you kind of already had an idea of what some of the content around this would entail. It does contain themes of gender-based violence and victim blaming. For those who don't or aren't familiar with the term gender-based violence, this is deemed a more inclusive word to describe sexual violence, sexual harassment. It's basically describing violence that a person experiences because of their gender or because of the way they identify. So if I use gender-based violence, you're like, what is that? It is the exact same thing as sexual violence and harassment. It's just kind of determined as a more of an umbrella term. This show is hosted by an individual, myself, a publication, and a station that believes survivors. And if this stance makes us biased, then so be it. I also want to disclaim that the views of those interviewed do not reflect the views of myself or the publication. Some things will be hard to hear. Some things you'll resonate with, others you won't. The intention of this episode is to not place myself or the guests as experts on the ins and outs of each accusation made against Nahko. This isn't a he did do it or he didn't do it story. I don't intend to re-traumatize victims, survivors, and the public with details of sexual misconduct. I've already stated that myself and this platform believes survivors. And when someone says that they've been hurt, especially in cases of sexual violence, it is not within anybody else's right to discount their experience. This episode will feature statements, music, and interviews with artists and creative slated to work the event. Specifically, we're going to be hearing from creatives who backed out before the event was canceled. And before naysayers jump in here, I saw the comments. I saw what y'all were putting on our post. I saw what was going on in other groups and pages. I just do want to say we did have an interview lined up with an artist who chose to stay on the lineup, but they had bowed out. We also did reach out to Joe, the founder of Pyro, for an interview, and he did not respond to our request. So I want to put that out there for y'all and just kind of address that. I also want to note that I am interviewing all male presenting people in this episode, which does feel a little off for me and when discussing sexual violence and things like that. I really did want to have a voice, or voices representing women in this. Unfortunately, there weren't as many femme-identifying people booked on this lineup, and those who I did reach out to chose not to comment, and I respect that decision. It's a very hard and personal conversation for some folks. So, yeah. Whew. So, I want to share that this isn't the story that you think it is. And it's not the story I thought that I was going to be sharing either. This turned out to be more of a story of betrayal and a story of loss of a sense of community. I know I experienced my own sense of loss when I watched the Wookiefoot and Harmony Park community tear itself apart over this exact issue in 2020. I have not listened to a single track by Wookiefoot or Nahko since then. I haven't attended any more of their events, and that community was a huge part of my identity, but so is being a survivor. And I think a lot of us can relate to the pain, and it's a lot more evident when these conversations aren't being had in comment sections. So I hope I kind of did a good job kind of covering some bases and basic understanding of kind of where we're coming from, and what we're trying to do here. Yeah. So let's get started with a song. And I know it might feel a little cheesy or off to be promoting music and stuff like that during this episode, but what I really wanted to do was kind of give our minds and our hearts some breaks during this heavy content. So we are going to listen to some music, and we're going to talk about a little bit of music. And let's get started with a track by a band called HTW, or Halfway There. They couldn't join us for an interview tonight, but they did leave their followers with some words on social media on the situation. The band shared that there are times in this business when you need to stand on principle. We want to make sure that we're all grooving in an atmosphere where everyone feels safe. When we first signed to play Pyro, we were not aware of the full lineup, and due to this, we are respectfully dropping out of Pyro's Eclipse Festival. We're looking forward to plenty of other amazing times coming up in the near future. So that's the statement from Halfway There, and this is their song, Sold My Soul. All right, that was HWT, or Halfway There, and their track Sold My Soul. I love that. I'm already feeling a little better. Y'all let me know in the chat if you're feeling a little better too. And if you liked that song, boy, do I have news for you. They are about to release a track called Twice as Fast as Time, and it's set to release on February 23rd. It's available for pre-save, and there's a link on their webpage to get that pre-saved and get it pre-downloaded in your social media, or not social media, your listening platforms. I don't know, the way I share music on my Spotify and such, it practically is social media. But yeah, the webpage is hwtmusic.com. We'll also throw that in the Discord chat. Yeah, so be sure to show them some love. I have a couple more songs by them that will be playing out tonight. But yeah, I think now is a good time to dive into our first interview relating to Pyro. And I think this is going to give y'all a really good first glimpse into the artist experience of finding out about Nahko being booked on the event. I think I really saw some themes in all of these interviews. Um, and I just really thought that our first person we chatted with, his name is Dan Barker, really kind of just was very vulnerable and real with us about his thought processes and emotions. Finding out this news. You'll have to excuse both of us in this interview for being a little nervous. This is my first interview on this topic out of the series, and well, it's not an easy topic to discuss. So let's hear from Dan Barker. His band is called Rolled Up. Dan, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today about Pyro and everything involved. How are you specifically involved with Pyro and related to it?
Well, this year was going to be my first year playing. I went there for my first time in 2021. I went and seen Wookiefoot, Satsang, and a bunch of other of my favorite artists and had an amazing time. And I've been, I'm an artist and been trying to play there since I first went there and found out about the place and, discovered it. And yeah, this year he put us on. He's like, yeah, if you guys play for wristbands, I'll put you on the lineup. And so we got on, and it was before Nahko was announced, and I was super excited. And then, it kind of dropped the curveball on us, and that changed my opinion. I wasn't as excited once I found out that Nahko was going to be there. I was very disappointed. That if you look back in any of the Pyro groups, like any of the posts that he's made in the past, I've always been very vocal about my stance on Nahko. And, I don't know why he put me on there if he was going to add Nahko last minute. He should have talked to everyone first. That should have been a discussion he had with the
Yeah.
artist involved.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It should have been a discussion. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your music before we dive too deep into the other stuff. What kind of music do you play?
Well, I've been making music for a very long time, and I play a mix of like reggae, rock, psychedelic rock. We jam a lot. I don't know. I'm all over the place. I started off with hip hop, and then I grew into playing guitar and playing in bands, and fell in love with reggae once I found out about Sublime and all the other artists alike, and have just been growing since. And yeah, so I started doing it myself, and then I met up with a couple guys. We started a band called Naughty Frog, and that recently disbanded. But the music is still out there. We have two albums out, and you can go listen to it. And but now I started a new project called Rolled Up, and we just continuing on where Naughty Frog left off, and we're just gonna keep rolling, and yeah, I just love making music, and been playing shows for a very long time. We travel all over the place. I'm from originally Buffalo, New York, and just moved down to like Jamestown area, and we play all over like Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York sometimes, and have a good time.
Yeah. So Rolled Up was the band that was set to play at Pyro.
Yes.
Nice. And you mentioned you were just going to play for tickets for this event?
Yep.
Okay, okay. Um, so what kind of what do you usually sing about? I will have to admit I hadn't checked out your music before this interview, but tell me a little bit about the contents of your songs. What subjects do you cover and how do you think that relates to this?
Oh, I went live last night and I was singing a bunch of my songs, and I was kind of laughing. I was singing as I was singing them because my lyrics like they hit so close to home with this whole topic and everything. Because I've always been very vocal about speaking my mind and making a change, and I feel like music is the way to do that. Just bring in topics that you want to change into light into music. And I I'm try to bring it in a positive light, so it's not I'm like not a Debbie Downer the whole time, but like I do talk about like things that are going wrong in the world, like a couple songs bring about talk about like the deforestation of the Amazon, and just like how we are destroying nature. I'm a big fan of nature. I love going out in the woods, camping, and all that stuff. So it just any topic that hits home to me. I feel like music is the way to make a change by it. Impacts a lot of people, so I sing about the stuff that is important to me. And I don't have any songs specifically about this topic, but
Yeah,
I'm
of
sure
course.
through all this whole situation. But yeah, just I don't know. It's hard to talk.
Yeah, it's a difficult subject to talk about, but from what I'm understanding is that you really believe that music can be a powerful force and it can make change. And it sounds like that's something that kind of impacts why you feel so strongly about Nahko not being on this lineup is because music is powerful and should be treated as something special.
Exactly.
So you mentioned that you didn't find out about the headline booking until after you had already been booked. But did you find out on social media along with the rest of us, or what was that like?
Yeah, he just dropped the lineup on Facebook, and that's how we all found out.
Do you think it was intentional?
I don't know what he was thinking. I can't determine what was going on in his mind at the time to do that. And then he had Victor in the comments, attacking everyone, and that just bad PR. You should have a professional team running that if you want to be a professional festival, not just
Yeah,
a bunch of people that are not professional. The way things were handled was just insane, and all
yeah,
I did was I stated my opinion, and then I got attacked. And I probably misworded things because what I said was like it's concerning seeing Nahko on the lineup despite all of the sexual abuse cases against him. And everyone corrected me. There aren't any official cases. There's all allegations. But I misspoke. But it whatever. It was the same in my mind. And
yeah.
um,
Well,
I don't. I don't know the the whole situation, but I've done a lot of research on it, and it's just it's messed up. Regardless of what is true or what isn't true, the that many accusations don't just appear from being a good person.
Yeah, and I think too it's important to recognize that um instances of sexual assault is the least prosecuted crime in our criminal justice system. Like those are the crimes that are the hardest to prove in court, but that doesn't make them any less real and it doesn't make them any less valid. I really appreciate what you had to say on that.
Very true.
So I think what also is kind of interesting is Pyro claims that they are respectful of all opinions, but you seem to be booted pretty quick for having your opinion on the situation. What did that feel like for you?
It was just insane. I was mind blown. I couldn't believe it was all happening on a public forum like that. And then instantly after I was told I wasn't going to be on the lineup, I was blocked by who told me that. So we couldn't even discuss it anymore. And then my drummer went on to a different post and, was talking about it. And it took them, a, over 24 hours to respond to any of us about the situation. And then they acted like they were clueless and they offered us a spot on the lineup again, and I declined. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know about that. That wasn't me. Do you want in or are you out?" And I just said no. At this point, what uh, Victor said to me was disrespectful, and I don't want to play on there with Nahko on the lineup. And that's what I said there.
Good. Do you feel supported by your band? Was this like a group decision or?
Yeah, at first I was the one that like spoke out, and we have a group chat together, and I sent them like a screenshot of what I said and what Victor said to me after we got kicked off the lineup. I'm like, sorry guys, I know we're all kind of excited about this, but then my band did research and they were all backing me on it, so it was everyone's on board. It was a sad situation, but I mean the festival ended up getting canceled anyway, so it's uh,
Yeah.
like we're missing.
Yeah. Um, what were your initial feelings when you saw that the festival got canceled?
Disappointed. It's sad. I mean, he messaged me this morning personally, Joe did, and apologized for the situation and told me his side of the story. And it just sounded like that he wanted this all to end. And it's just sad that he took this route. There's many ways I feel like he could have went about going about this rather than the way he did. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to chat with me about this. I know it's a sensitive topic and there's a lot of mixed emotions, everything from anger to sadness to surprise, disbelief. It's a lot to hold space for. And I just like really appreciate you taking time to talk with me about your experience with all of it.
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out and, giving me the platform to voice my opinion and promote my music and stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much. Um, I will be sure to grab a link to your music and we'll put it out there.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I just put out a new song called Game of Chess under Dan Barker Music. And Rolled Up will have new content coming soon. We have some stuff on YouTube. And we're playing in Akron, Ohio next Friday at the Buzzbin.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. That was Dan Barker. And y'all, you know what? I forgot to grab his music. It's been just such a chaotic few days. So my apologies for promising that. But danbarkermusic.com, I think he said, or at least that's how you can find him on social media. So that you can go check out his new song. If you're in the chat and you're local to the area and you know the venues, you have the links to the shows that he's playing. Yeah, throw them in there. I'd really appreciate that support. Yeah, and I know that's just the first interview that we heard, but I'm really excited to keep diving into these with y'all as I think we start to see some themes happening here, and I'll wait to dissect or dive too deep on some of my commentary until we hear a little bit more. Um, Another band that um, was shared with us some music, but could not be on tonight's episode. Um, just blessed us with their unreleased track. It is just such a huge honor every time a band decides to share their unreleased track with us. And I have a new song from Land of Panda called Here for You. This is going to drop the same day as HWT's new track, Twice as Fast as Time. It's going to be available on February 23rd. You heard it here first. Let's take some deep breaths. Listen to some music. And I believe if they are in the chat, if they could drop a link so folks could go check out their stuff past here. So this is the unreleased track by Land of Panda called Here for You. Let's hear what y'all think. All right, that was Here for You by Land of Panda. That's their unreleased song that's going to be coming out on February 23rd. We invite you to go give them a follow on social media so you can be notified when the song comes out. I know personally, I really enjoy hearing a song that has sirens in it, not in the car for the first time. So I'm really glad I could be listening it to hear in my headphones. I don't know anybody else, but that always psychs me out a little bit. All right. Well, next I want to dive into my interview with Evan of Sturg and Friends. This was a really moving conversation, and I think it's a good follow-up one to the conversation with Dan. Is it too fast to play a song? Can I play another song? I have some songs by Sturg and Friends. I kind of want to lead with it, and then we'll also play one of them at the end. I don't know. It's my radio show. I'm going to play another song. Let's play another song. This is Soul Jam by Sturg and Friends. And after this, we'll be hearing from Evan. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking some time to talk with me about all this.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I definitely appreciate the time to come and talk with you.
Could you start out by just telling me your name and your band project and what kind of sound y'all play?
Yeah, my name is Evan Sturgeon, and my band's name is Sturg and Friends. And the sound we play, it's whatever I felt like writing in the moment, really. I don't necessarily box myself into one particular genre, but the core of it is rock based, I guess you could say. And then we've got influences of like reggae and Americana and folk and bluegrass and blues and psychedelic rock and all kinds of other things in there. So I just like music a lot.
How long have y'all been playing together?
The band has been together. Well, the band has been a project for about 5 years, and keeping members is it's a challenge in today's world because I mean it's not cheap to do this, and everybody has their own things going on. So it's there's been members filtered in and out, but yeah, no, we've been going since 2019 as of right now.
Okay. And what's yours and the band's relationship with Pyro Music Festival?
Right. So my drummers that I've had have actually never been to Pyro, but myself and my bassist and the guitarists that play with us and stuff, they've been a pretty frequent flyers at Pyro, and I've been there since 2019 myself. And yeah, it's been a huge inspiration in my life. It was a life-changing kind of event to go to. I think not only for me, but for a lot of other people, and especially if people have been to like Shangri-La or anything like that, where it's like mostly medicine tribe, you know that the people that you meet there and the conversations you're able to have and the interactions that you're able to have are unlike anything that you experience outside of there. and the message that's come through in the music and some of the healing that's taken place not only at the festival but after the festivals, after people have had time to go home and process and talk to more people about things. Like it's just, yeah, it was magical kind of. So um
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's really interesting to hear how special of a space that was to you and Minnie, and then to kind of see what has transpired over the past few days with the announcement to book Nahko. How did you feel when you saw that announcement?
So originally I was kind of excited at first just because like one of the main reasons that I went to Pyro in the first place in 2019 was to see him and to see Foot and all the other amazing musicians that were there, like Mike Love, and I think Rising Appalachia was there too. And before I went to Pyro, I started listening to Nahko and Foot and Revolution and Mike Love and all these other. Well, Revolution hasn't been at Pyro yet, and they obviously won't be. But um, that music showed me that there's a different kind of music out there. I never really like listened to Bob Marley or anything like that before getting into this kind of music, so I wasn't aware that there was people who were on that frequency and in that mindset that were writing music for that was like a movement of liberation from the society that we find ourselves in a way, you know? And that was really inspiring. So seeing how everything transpired with Nahko and the Wookiefoot community through Shangri-La, that was really upsetting. And then I followed his story, and as time went on, it seemed like the it seemed like he was doing the work. It seemed like a lot of people were starting to stand up behind him again, and it gave a little bit of faith that like things might have changed and that there was um some what's the best way to say this, some maybe hope for like true healing and true change and different form of being from him, you know.
Mhm.
And then whenever the lineup dropped, like I said, my initial reaction was excitement. I was like, cool, because I believe in second chances for people and I believe in healing for people. And if anybody has listened to my music, you know, I have my album called Permission to Heal, and the last song is called Permission to Heal. And I believe that that permission to heal is important. I believe everybody deserves healing. But that song is also about my child going through abuse. And I know all too well from his case how it can be where you go and tell people what's up. You have all the evidence, you have all the pictures, and they disregard you. So, as the comments started to come out, as new testimonials started to come out, as firsthand accounts started to come out, and seeing the division and seeing how it was handled by some of the higher ups in there was like genuinely just like saddening. And I understand why people took the standpoint that they did, and I understand why people got defensive. I just think I think it went the way that it was supposed to, but it doesn't make it suck any less, you know. And um, seeing a community turn on each other is what hurts the most. But I understand that in order for people to be able to come to a space like that and feel included and feel safe, that it's best to not have somebody headlining that doesn't make people feel entirely safe. So yeah, I definitely understand where people were coming from on that. And I had, as of right now, it's just a whole bag of like mixed emotions on it. I don't know enough about Nahko to say what he did or what he didn't do. I don't know enough about the victims to say what they did or like what happened to them or what didn't happen to them. And so with that, along with seeing how the community was feeling, along with some of the blowback that I got personally, because I mean, I was getting the threats of like being labeled a pedophile supporter, having the permission to heal event that I have labeled as something that's not even safe because we're choosing to be on a lineup with somebody who's not a safe person. And like all these accusations and assumptions about other people's character coming out of like nowhere that they it's baseless, they know nothing about. But no, truly, like it's just heartbreaking to see, man. Like
Mhm.
it really is. So it's a whole mixed bag of emotions at this
Yeah,
point.
it really
But
is.
I understand why people feel the way they do. I even understand why Joe wanted to bring him back on because he had gone around and he had talked to multiple people about it beforehand to see how people felt about it. And I think there's a lot of people that were for it, but at the same time, it's easy to talk to people that are on the same page as you are, that kind of see the same way that you do, and to get the idea that a lot of people are going to be cool with it and that there's going to be less people that aren't. And then it kind of flip flop the other direction where there's a lot of people that weren't. and
Yeah.
um, so, yeah, it was just really sad to see. But no, it became pretty evident and obvious that the right thing to do was to just step away from the situation and to separate because we personally want to stay dedicated to playing in spaces where everybody can feel safe and welcome.
Yeah.
And um, overall, that's the whole intention of it, you know.
Yeah. There seems, and you alluded to this as well, there's a narrative going around that a lot of bands, including yours, had to cancel because they were being threatened to be destroyed if they didn't. So do you feel like dropping out was your own free will, or do you feel like you were coerced into making that decision?
So at first, there was some heavy coercion, some heavy coercion, especially from local people that even put on events from where I'm at, because I'm not from Ohio. I'm from like 10 hours away in Illinois. And so there's some heavy blowback, but I don't, not to sound rude or anything, but like I do what I want to do and I do what my intuition says, and I don't really care about that. I care about how other people feel, but whenever you're going to tell me how to live my life and do my own business, that's a little far for me. But after going in, reading, I read every single comment. I went through and I read thousands of comments from thousands of people just to see how the entire community was feeling, because that's what matters to me. How the community is feeling about things, because that's why I go, is for the community. But seeing how the community was feeling allowed me to make my own judgment call and develop my own feelings on it.
Hmm.
So while there was the coercion, I made my own decision.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Thank you for answering that. Yeah, that I mean, that was just like something that I've seen kind of circulate in this round. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, there's kind of been different breaths to this conversation around Nahko over the years. first when people started trying to get awareness years ago, and then when it came to the forefront of conversation, and then now it seems to be happening again. And I know there's been other little like breaths to it over the years, but I think a common thing seeing is um, and feeling is this like loss of community and things like that. And yeah, what's something you've kind of been doing to kind of take care of yourself as you're processing a lot of this and dealing with it?
So thankfully, it came a lot of double-edged swords in this area right here. It came at a good and bad time because personally, I also play with brother Mikey, and I support him to the moon and back, man. He's like one of the most real people that I know, and he writes some incredible music. And he just put out an album this last Friday. So he lives in Orlando, and I came down to Orlando with Ryan Kind and a couple of other people and played the album release with him. And I got family that's around this area, so I've been fortunate enough to be able to visit with family this entire time, and they've kind of helped keep me grounded. Um, there's been a lot of breath work and a lot of dabs involved with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, yeah, that's really that's the big thing. I've been playing some music to cope with it too, and there's going to be a lot of writing that comes out of it whenever I process it. But I'm thankful for family and breath work and Mary Jane, man.
Preach.
Thankful.
So would you have any words that you would like to share with your pyro community? I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be listening to this on both sides of the coin. Would you have anything you just want to share with them?
Yeah. Something that I've even left in a comment on a couple people who have commented on my own thing. This is a turbulent time for everybody, and where it's easy to want to push back on people or cast stones at people, we all got to remember that we live in a lot of glass houses. And even I myself, like, I'm a lot better of a person now than I was 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, like, I cheated on people, like, I lied to girlfriends, I used people, like, I was not a perfect person myself. So, let he who is without sin cast the first stone, they say. And I think in this time, it's really important to remember that you don't always know what somebody's going through. You don't always know what is going on in somebody else's mind. And you sure as hell don't know exactly what goes on behind closed doors with other people. There's a lot of assumptions and a lot of charged statements flying around. And I think if we can all take a step back and realize that we're all hurting in some way or another, and that our hurt stems from places that aren't necessarily this particular situation in a lot of instances, we can see that we have a lot of common ground, and that if we can be respectful and kind to each other, we can move forward a lot faster in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Something you had mentioned earlier in the interview is that you do believe in growth and second chances and kind of like accounting for our wrongs. For you, what would that look like for the Nahko situation? Um,
Yeah, that's where it gets tough because since everyone has their own healing to do, a lot of people come to these events for healing. And Nahko has healing of his own to do too, because the way that he acted towards women was because of trauma. Um, at least that's how I can see it, because that's how I was myself, you know? And that's how I see a lot of other people who are in that womanizer category. I'm not, that air quote isn't saying that's not, I'm just saying that's what people say. But that get put into that category that have a lot of stuff they haven't dealt with. And after you deal with things like, I've seen how much growth can happen in a year. I've seen how much change can happen in a year. But to be real, I also watch what people say and how they act. And I think there's still a lot of accountability on his part, to be quite
Mhm.
real.
Yeah.
Not to throw any shade, but I know how things work. I know posts can be scheduled, and I know, especially whenever you get to where you have a whole team of people that are working for you and whatnot. But it was a little frustrating to see Nahko post a Shack session video saying that he was glowing from the weekend right after everything that happened and not addressing anything. And you can't even comment on it to ask like what's going on. So, I mean, there's a part of me that questions, like, does he even care about the situation? If it's going to be bypassed like that, wasn't intentionally bypassed like that. I
Yeah.
don't think it helps the situation at all. But I don't know. It just raises some questions,
Yeah.
and um, so I think, not to get too sidetracked, but I think that we all got healing to do in our own time, and I think that for Nahko, I'm out. I'm glad to see him back out playing shows and um, getting back to making a living, because I know as a musician, there's not many other things that you can or want to do after you have started doing this.
Hmm.
But I also think that there's a lot of people that still need a fair amount of time to heal. And I think maybe just doing smaller things where he can be around the people that have already healed that feel safe is a cool idea. I don't know. I don't want to say what's good for other people and what's not
Right.
good for people.
That's
And,
fair.
yeah,
That's
but
very fair.
I wish him healing, and I hope that he can address this situation. And I hope that any women that are affected in the situation also find the healing that they need. I really just hope that everybody can, uh, yeah, get to a point,
Yeah.
peace, move on from this. But yeah, no, it's a tricky situation.
It is. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me about it and be so vulnerable about what you've experienced, as well as, yeah, how you're just, going through this time. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate you.
Mhm. That was Evan from Sturg and Friends. Yeah, much thanks to Evan for just being so vulnerable and sharing with us um, what he thinks on the situation. Doing this episode was a really interesting experience for me because I have my views and opinions and stance on the whole situation. Um, and I'm human, and I set out the intention to tell my views and opinions through both my own narrative, but also supported by other folks. And, doing these interviews, they really reminded me that there's a lot of perspective out there that it isn't identical to mine. And it also really showed me that we can hold space to have these conversations, and be respectful when we hear it. And we don't need to destroy each other in comment sections. Jesus. Fuck. um, and it just like, I think what really has surprised me about all of this, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself and should have saved this for the end, but I think what really surprised me about all of this is like, when we're actually taking time to talk with each other, it's a lot more civil than when we're typing and hiding behind a screen and things like that. So, speaking of typing and hiding behind a screen, I do want to jump into a little bit of analysis of what's been alluded to from comments of the founder of Pyro Festival, Joe, online. But first, we're going to listen to another song by Sturg and Friends. If you could please go show them some love and support. And here is their song, Ripple Effect. All right, that was Ripple Effect by Sturg and Friends. Um, yeah, I I think, yeah, I'm gonna dive in a little bit to some of Joe's commentary on some of this. So, for those who don't know or just tuning in, Joe is the founder of Pyro Fest. He is the one who made the decision to book Nahko and bring him on back. That ultimately led to a lot of division and hurt and betrayal in the Pyro community. And I just want to kind of like put this in here a little bit before we dive into our next two interviews, because it does get alluded to in a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. I just have some thoughts on it. But I want to hold true to my effort to try and not re traumatize the public with stories of victimization and victim blaming. But I also want to shed some more light on what Evan and Dan's comments on the situation being mishandled were. There have been a lot of posts made and deleted by Pyro Music Festival. And I just want to give a little bit of an analysis of some common themes for our listeners that I've seen in these posts, from a little bit more of a analytical eye. And I just want to share a little bit on why some of these things are harmful. There's a lot of themes from Joe on these issues, and I've just seen them circulate multiple times. And I don't know, I think for anybody that might be listening and maybe doesn't understand why victim blaming even needed a trigger warning on this, or maybe you read these things and you're like, wow, this doesn't sit right, but I don't know why it doesn't sit right. That little just ding, 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 and our head is going off. I just kind of want to give a little bit of just a pick apart and share why. I'm not going to read it. But we've seen some themes of him. He's leaned into the idea that because there is no legal case, that means that the accusations are untrue. These two do not equate to each other. Sexual assault is the hardest crime to get a conviction in court. The statistics too, just around the number of times a serial sexual abuser will assault people before they get busted is so high. I don't want to give like a wrong number, but it's in the double digits. And it's just I think if we kind of take a step back and look at this, we're going to realize that instances of sexual assault happen, and they happen a lot, and there's not always a receipt, period. And a lot of these things do have receipts, despite what has been said. There are lots of receipts. And not only have I heard these stories online, I have seen some of these receipts firsthand. I've spoken to and known people who were like young, not underage, but young, who are showing me messages that Nahko is messaging them, asking them to meet him backstage after his show and stuff like that, and asking what I thought of it. I don't know. I'm just like, I've seen it. I've seen it. Anyway, but there's receipts, and I think just because Joe doesn't need to have all the receipts and everything to believe survivors. Anyway, a little tangent there. He's also listed a lot of rock stars that have gotten away with inappropriate behavior towards women, and somehow, like, it just baffles me that for some reason, just because folks in our past have gotten away with this, that it somehow means that we should tolerate it now. It is our job to want a better future, both for ourselves and for the next generation. And I think we can look at a lot of male celebrities, women celebrities in the past who have had inappropriate relationships with people of younger ages. Also have used their position of power and influence to manipulate situations. But just because it's happened does not make it right, and does not mean that it should continue to happen and we should continue to allow it. I just believe that really, really firmly. And I think probably one of the more difficult things for me to read, that I've seen kind of repeated in different things, is how these inappropriate behaviors that Nahko is accused of are all just kind of chalked up to being a man whore or being a slut. And I just want to specify that having a high body count does not mean you are harmful. And it seems like when he's using this, oh, he's just a man whore, oh, he's just slept with a lot of women, that people are just upset that he slept with a lot of people. That's not the case. That's not the case. You're free to have as high of a body count as you want, as long as those bodies and those people are consenting and of right mind to consent, and are informed of all aspects of your relations, truly. And I don't know. I've just seen this also in a lot of Nahko's defenders' comments and stuff, that women with stories of inappropriate behavior wanted to be with him, and are angry that they weren't. And that is simply not true. Women don't just enjoy music because they want to be sexually active with the artist. It is very possible to really like music by an artist of the gender that you are typically attracted to, and to not want to sleep with them. And that's great. That's fine. Some people do too. And that's fine too. But I think really just categorizing all women who are upset and speaking out about this as people who wanted to be sexually active with him is just mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling to me. And so I just really wanted to step in here with a little bit of a tidbit before we jumped into some of these next interviews. I know for me, a lot of that stuff is like really hard to read, which is also why I didn't want to like straight out read some of these things. But I did just want to provide a little bit of an analysis of, I don't know, ways we can talk about this, I guess. Ways that we can look at this. And yeah, I don't know. So our next interview, I'm truly excited to play for you. This is an interview with Don Carpenter, and I would like to take a second just to thank him. This episode truly would not have been possible without him. He was the first person that got back to me when I started reaching out to folks to gauge interest in doing this episode. Don has experience discussing sexual violence from a journalistic standpoint, and as an approach that is very near and dear to my heart, I really appreciated his insight and his support, and just him really believing in this episode enough to not only be on it, but to connect me with the people I needed to speak to. And Don, I just wanted to say thank you, and I really hope that this is the beginning of a great um, friendship between journalists. I don't know. I'm really excited to play this interview. Well, here we go. Don, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today about the whole pyro situation.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting.
Could you start off by sharing with me just what is your relationship with that festival? How did you get plugged in, and in what ways do you contribute to it?
Sure. The very first pyro I ever went to was at Nelson's Ledges back in 2016, and I got to do some photography work with a band called Wookie Foot. And after that, I kind of went my separate ways. I really wasn't too involved with pyro, and then around 2020, after I was out covering all the riots going on in the country, a friend of mine had taken me to, I believe it was Summer Pyro that year. And I had brought my cameras and I did a lot of photo, video stuff and took some incredible pictures and began building a relationship with Joe Hertz, the promoter of Pyro, who I had met back in 2016, but I really didn't put two and two together until then. And just started working with bands that had performed on that lineup over the years and going back each year for spring, fall, and summer pyro, as many as I could do, as many I could be invited with. And that was pretty much it. Just I did photo, video work. I got to hang out with a lot of really cool artists. I got to see the festival work on all sides, from the security aspect to what they were doing at the front gate. And it's been a really beautiful community to me. They've given me a lot of opportunities, and just seeing what has happened over the last several days since the announcement of Nahko has just been heartbreaking. Seeing, friend against friend, lover against lover, bands having to make very difficult decisions, and even bands that didn't even have the opportunity to make that decision yet being targeted and threatened by others that they were rape apologists or PETAs if they remained on the lineup.
Yeah, sometimes those decisions aren't made overnight, or in the blink of an eye. What And before we dive a little too deep into all that, you also have a background in journalism, and you have also uh, done some work discussing sexual violence. Could you talk about that a little bit too?
Sure. In 2011, I joined the Occupy movement here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we had some independent journalists who were embedded not only from Occupy Wall Street, but they were part of media collectives here in Pittsburgh. And I was doing security for Occupy Pittsburgh at the time. And toward the end of the Occupy days, these independent journalists kind of saw something in me, took me under their wing, and started teaching me the ways of the independent journalists. So from Occupy, I went out across the country and covered hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 activist movements across the country, protests. And after Occupy kind of dwindled down in 2013, I fell into the Steubenville rape case in Ohio. That was a case in which a girl had went to a party. There was a bunch of underage drinking. She had gotten intoxicated to the point to where she couldn't think, she couldn't consent to anything, and she was sexually assaulted uh, by two people were convicted of this. They were tier two sex offenders growing up for their final teen years. Allegedly, there were other people involved, but they were never brought or charged. There were a lot of immunity deals in that case. But that was at the height of the beginning of social media. And after that girl was sexually assaulted, she was basically slut shamed throughout the internet: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There were videos of her in states of undress and just them making fun of this poor girl. So I covered that case and actually made a international name for myself working that case, covering that case from when it broke throughout the trial of the two convicted rapists. And about 9 years later, a filmmaker made a documentary on it called Roll Red Roll, and they used a lot of my footage. I was invited to speak on it, but I didn't feel that what the world needed was another man putting his opinion out about it, what happened to a woman. So I kind of just stepped back and let them produce the movie and consulted on the side.
Wow. Yeah, it's really interesting to note the relationship between social media and people's responses to sexual violence and things like that. Um, are there any similarities that you see between that case and kind of what's happening here with Nahko and Pyro Music Festival?
Yes, I do. The Steubenville rape case involved high school football players, and that was a very big football town. So the high school athletes were put up on pedestals and kind of allowed to do what they want. And here we have in the music industry, which is no matter what industry, what part of the music industry we're looking at, what genre it is, pretty much a breeding ground from what I've seen for abusers, both sexually, physically, emotionally, and violently, what have you. And the only difference here is music. Music changes a lot of people's lives. It elevates the soul, and we put these artists way up there on a pedestal. We worship them. We think they can do no wrong, and when in fact they're just human beings. And in this case, a lot of people in this music industry that have been exposed as abusers. A lot of people refuse to believe it because they can't believe that the person that created this song that so defined their life could do something so horrible. And it just goes to a pack mentality of he said, she said stuff. I refuse to believe it. Show me the charges. Well, if a bear shits in the woods, do you hear it? And this case, you see a lot of people being accused, and it's, well, show me the police report, show me this, show me that. And a lot of these abusers, both in even not in the music industry, get away with it because one, a lot of victims won't come forward, or two, victims will come forward and they're just beaten up so bad in the press, on social media, in the courtrooms that other victims won't come through, and they'll speak out, they'll say something, and they won't be believed. So a lot of victims out there won't come forward because they just don't want to be not believed and put through the ringer, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all very spot on to what we're kind of seeing play out here. How did you find out that Nahko was going to be on the lineup? And yeah, what were your kind of initial feelings?
Well, to be honest, I had only seen Nahko back in 2016 at that Pyro with Wookiefoot. I never was a fan, so I never really followed his career. I remember at Pirates Past people talking about it, and there is stuff out there on the internet, and I spent the last several days reading everything I could. And to be honest, I don't know who's telling the truth. I don't know who's lying, but there's a hell of a lot of PR behind that, and that kind of makes me, in my own opinion, believe me thinks I'll protest too much. But uh, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. What was the question again?
Well, my cat was meowing in the background, so I think that makes two of us. But what was kind of just your initial reaction to seeing the announcement? So it sounds like the accusations were kind of something you had heard whispers of, but something that you really just dove into after the announcement.
Oh, it was I think Saturday night. Some people in the close friend circle of the Pyro promoters stuff were alluding to a big announcement coming, and I basically found out when I woke up Sunday afternoon. I had a rather late night, so I woke up probably around like 1:30 or 2 on Sunday afternoon, and then woke up to the announcement. Like many of the artists on the lineup, and we were all like stunned that no one talked to us about it because
Mm.
over the years, in the Pyro music group and Pyro music page, and even Joe on stage would kind of test the waters about Nahko and like bringing Nahko back, and it's time to forgive. And I said forget. That's kind of the vibe I've been getting is forgive, maybe forget, and it would always start this giant backlash of people for Nahko, people against Nahko, people for sexual assault victims themselves, not related to Nahko, but sharing their story. And then a lot of people, a lot of misogynistic comments like, "Well, bitches lie, this, that, the other thing," and so then Joe would back out, be like, "Okay, well, I hear everything. This is a conversation that it needs more discussing." And I think it was Summer Pyro last year, maybe the year before. He kind of made a speech about council culture, not cancel culture. And I was kind of like, I run around, so I don't really, fortunately, I don't really get to listen to much speakers speaking, but I just heard the phrase council, not cancel culture.
Hmm.
And it was just waking up Sunday. I woke up to like, I think about 150 Facebook messages, text messages going, "What the hell? What do you think?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, first of all, I'm just one of the people that take pictures and videos. They allow me to come and do that. So I really have no say about the structure or who gets the book too. But it was just wild. And then all the Facebook messages started, and pretty much like the last 3 days, that my entire social media feed has been up Pyro. We're seeing all the comments, so it was pretty wild. And again, like I really don't know what's true, what's not good thing. I haven't really been in it since the beginning, but
Hmm.
it was a powder keg waiting to blow up, and fortunately, it blew up. It blew up, and instead of everyone listening to each other, they started tearing each other down. Joe Pertz, who I really believe in my heart that he was doing what he thought was right and standing behind what he believed in, went about it in a terrible way, horrible, horrible way, and like just said a lot of words. A lot of those words have been deleted from social media. There's hundreds of screenshots out there still of what was. It just hurt.
Yeah.
That's not the Pyro I know. It's not the Pyro I can love.
Yeah. Do you think there was an intentional level of secrecy with not sharing that Nahko was on there, or was that kind of regular protocol for nobody to know who the headliner was going to be before it was dropped?
Um, I think it was done intentionally, just because if you threw it out there right away, we probably still would have had what we had this week, which was bands dropping from the lineup because they don't want to be associated with that kind of negativity. And there's a lot of bands that felt strongly about their opinions on the matter, and obviously they were the first to drop. But it's kind of been hinted, on the DL over at least the last year or so, that they were looking to maybe bring Nahko back. But I think it was after Spring Pyro last year, might have been last year, that was kind of hinted that they were maybe looking to do it. And I really had no thoughts on the matter. I was just like, it's gonna be a shit show. Something's not gonna involve to happen anyway. But
Yeah.
I think it was done secretly, and I also think it was done very careless. I think
Yeah.
that they knew what was going to happen when they did this. The backlash. I don't think they realized that the community would tear itself apart so badly, but they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. I hear you mentioning a lot, kind of like the destruction of the community kind of from the inside out. But yeah, it's just interesting to have someone here that's kind of like trying to lead these conversations that hasn't really paid attention kind of to the experience of what it's like to be on the other side and seems to just want to support the um accused. Um I don't know. What do you think the community could have used to help get through this time in a more unified manner? Like, what would have made that difference? Sorry, I've kind of already alluded to what I think would make the difference, but I want to hear what kind of what you would think. What could have been done differently to kind of move through all this?
I don't think there was a positive way to move past it all. Like they wanted to bring Nahko back at some point. They were going to bring Nahko back, and it whether it was now, a year from now, or even if every year they say this is the last Pyro. They said that last year too, and that there was no way this was avoidable.
Yeah.
No way in hell this backlash. Joe kind of going off the deep end a little bit on social media, which is a terrible way. Like, I do a little bit of PR for like some band clients and whatnot. I mean, a lot of people said this in the comments too. They're like, dude, seriously, like, it, you need to hire somebody for PR right now. Or if they were my client, I'd just be like, dude, just shut the fuck up right now. So stop speaking. Put it
Yeah.
out there. Yes, Nahko's on the lineup. Let everybody have their say. Listen to what's being said instead of deflecting, trying to divert. I mean, I don't know if you saw, that Joe has several different social media accounts. He has, his personal, the Pyro page, the Music Festival Junkie page, and if you paid attention to any of those over the last several days when all hell was breaking loose, each page seemed to be like a different personality. And like, I know he was going through it. There's no excuse for some of the actions, some of the things he said, but if you looked at the three different social media pages by him, it looked like three separate people were having different conversations. Like it was all normal over here on the Music Festival Junkie page, which was, where would your dream festival spot be? What would you do to build a festival? And personal page, personal stuff, and then Pyro. Well, I support women, I support this, but I don't really give a fuck about what you have to say in here because we're doing it. We're a love and light community, and obviously it's not a love and light community when everyone's so goddamn upset, whether they're angry, sad, pissed off, threatening each other, mocking sexual assault victims, or just straight up saying girls are liars.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, and Joe had shared like some of the captions of some of these like, groups and different stances he's taken about Pyro. He's shared that we listen to each other. Do you think Joe was listening to the people who had been personally impacted by sexual violence? Or do you think he was just listening to the voices that he wanted to listen to, or something completely else?
I think in the beginning he was kind of listening and then also trying to share his viewpoint that everyone does deserve a second chance, and I do believe everyone deserves a second chance unless you're a murderer, a rapist, or some kind of abuser. Because when you abuse someone in that way, you take something away from them that they're never ever going to get back. Like I was assaulted as an altar boy, and there's not a goddamn day that goes by where I don't think about that in my head. That person will always have that power over me, and
Hmm.
I will never get that back. And in the case where women or anybody that's sexually assaulted, you will never ever, in my opinion, and a lot of people that I know and work with and have covered over the years, you never ever get that back. You can push it back into the furthest recess of your mind. You can carry through your life, but there's at least 100 times a day you're going to think about that and be taken back to that where
Yeah.
your innocence was taken from you. But I I also think a lot of other people. Joe has a really good community of people that help him around him, and I think he was listening a lot to them as well, which was a couple of the posts I had seen from people involved with the festival were just, well, fuck it, we're selling more tickets anyway because of Nahko, and I don't think bringing Nahko was a money grab. Might have been, I don't know, but it was just a matter of, well, fuck it, if you don't like it, don't come, or you said your piece, we're gonna say what we got to say, and that's it, quit talking to us, or block, delete, whatever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the world we live in right now, where people say they want to listen to each other, but they actually don't because a lot of people have their mind already made up. I'm right, you're wrong. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a really hard it's a really hard thing to discuss. And thank you for sharing about your story and your experience too. I did want to acknowledge that. And it is really hard for those of us who have experienced these things to kind of like to step up and even speak or say anything on these issues. That was Don Carpenter, y'all. Seriously, thank you so much, Don, for your insight and perspective and vulnerability with us on this radio show. I something else I'm also finding is while it also is really hard for survivors to speak on these issues, I've also found that survivors tend to also be the most sympathetic to those who don't understand and sympathetic to each other and sympathetic to yeah, just things that maybe they haven't experienced because they know what it's like to see a dark side of the world and to be harmed. And I just really want to take a moment just to acknowledge that. And I think that's what makes a lot of this really difficult is we're seeing a lot of hatred and a lot of spouting off, and we're also seeing a lot of sympathy. We're seeing a lot of true and honest love, and we're also seeing a lot of peace, love, and gaslight. And there's a lot of emotions existing at once, and a lot of feelings that a lot of us are holding space for, both within our own and within other folks, as we navigate through this time. And yeah, it's tough shit, y'all. It's tough shit. Yeah, let's listen to another song. This one's another one by Halfway There. This one's called Garden Girl. And after this, we are going to hear from Neon Dion, who, while I don't have any of their music, they have taken a lot of their frustration and anger about this situation and has put the energy towards creating something. That was Garden Girl by HWT. Halfway there. Oh man, I really debated and went back and forth on if I was going to use music in this episode, and I am very glad that I did. Um, so yeah, we are going to play this next interview by Neon Dion and hear what they have to say on their experience with the Pyro lineup. Neon Dion, thank you so much for joining us on this episode tonight.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem. Thank you
could
for
you,
having me.
yeah, could you start off just by telling us a little bit about your music and your connection to Pyro?
Yes, I've my music. I'm a jam band guy, I guess I could say. But we play like all kinds of different, genres and stuff, and I like all kinds of music. And I went I went to Pyro my first time a couple years ago. I think it was when they were working at Brushy Fork Family Ranch. That that was a good time. I had a lot of friends there and stuff, and I thought I'd check it out. I knew a lot of people that went to that festival for a while, uh, and some people even since the beginning, when Joe started. So it's been around me for a while, and I just got to it a couple years ago.
Nice. And I think you were actually probably the first comment that people saw on publicly online of someone choosing to back out of the festival upon hearing the booking. What were some of your initial thoughts and feelings when you saw that announcement?
Um, yeah, when I saw it at first, immediately I was not happy with that. I already don't. I've already been very vocal about stuff like this in the past. And Joe knew this too. I'm pretty sure I've had to have talks with him about this where he thought I was, being mean or something, but I didn't appreciate the kind of people that, he's putting onto his fest. I know he just put Nahko back, but this is just a conversation I've had with people multiple times where I've expressed vocally that I'm not okay with people like that. Um, and I think I was angry because I know he knew what he was doing. Uh, I very well know that Joe knew what was going on when he made that decision. He is an aware person. He's not dumb. He knew what he was doing. And that just pissed me off. And I'm tired. I was tired of it. That was enough.
Yeah. And so it sounds like kind of like the dialogues and the conversation around that artist is something that you've been in tune to and kind of kept up with.
So not to him specifically, but just like people in the scene doing, shady shit, just like Nahko did.
Hmm.
And I don't approve of it. And like I said, I was vocal of that stuff, and I've had conversations with multiple people about it, and yeah, I've never been all right with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw that you're kind of your one of your immediate responses was to kind of plan an event the same weekend. Is this something you're still working on and trying to make happen?
Yes, I'm working with a couple venues right now. And I'm pulling. I was able to get some of the bands from Pyro. I'm gonna assume that some of the bands that couldn't do it were booked earlier in the weekend because I am throwing this on Monday, April 8th. It will be a 1 day show. Um, all the ticket sales go to I believe a few women said that Harriet Tubman Foundation would be the best one. Um, so I got to get into contact with them. That's where I want all the ticket sales to go. Yeah, and like I said, I'm trying to get the pyro musicians or a few of them that can do it that Monday.
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
a place locked in yet, definitely, but
Yeah. Where could people kind of stay updated on more of details about this upcoming event on Monday, February 8th? Or not February 8th,
they,
April 8th.
yeah. They can find me. My Facebook is Neon Dion. I don't have a Facebook page right now. I used to for another band that I had a long time ago, but I just that thing's not been up, and I haven't made another page. So I have a personal page. People can follow me or add me on it. Neon Dion. That's Neondion.
Awesome. Yeah, I also noticed you had made a point about listening to people with their input on this event. And I even hear you alluded to it with people had suggested the Harriet Tubman Foundation. Um, and I don't know, what's it kind of like taking in perspectives of people that maybe don't agree with you? What is that process kind of like?
Um, it it's tough. It's a weird one. I don't know if I could even dive deep enough into my brain to explain how I am able to work with that, or how I just have been doing it lately. That's a new thing to me.
Yeah.
That's very new to me. I like months old. I'm learning. Everyone's learning every day. There's things, people got to catch up on, and that's all right. And everyone's always got something they got to figure out, and that was just one of those things, and I'm getting there with it.
Yeah, I appreciate the vulnerability in your answer there. I think it's really important to acknowledge that we are all learning and we are all growing. And when we have new information or have new perspectives, it's okay to take that in and see how it influences or impacts, if it does, our current view on things. That's powerful. A lot of people have spoken to me about a lot of like sadness and mourning about kind of the division in the community that has happened following this announcement. Um, we kind of don't really ever really know what other people are going through, and there's a lot of things being fired back and forth between different folks online. Um, and I'm sure you've also seen and kind of been a part of it in some ways, having been kind of like an early person to back out. Um, are you doing anything to kind of take care of yourself during this time, or is that kind of what the festival is, kind of diving that energy into, um, yeah, something else?
Yeah, I've been putting it on the show. Uh I haven't been eating well since it happened, or drinking much water. Sleeping very good, but yeah, it's all gonna go into the show.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to hear that it's been kind of difficult to eat and drink. I can totally relate to that. I've been definitely feeling a little bit dehydrated myself these past few days. Um, yeah, I guess do you I don't know, do you feel sorry, I'm trying to figure out the best way to like kind of word these questions. But have you ever organized an event before and how do you feel like this one's going to pan out?
I have organized events before. Usually they're all business. This one, I know I'm losing all of my money. That's what it is. I'm paying bands before the show happens. I'm trying to pay for the sound and the lights in the venue before the show happens, and all the money from the tickets is just going into the the program. And that's just what it's going to be this time. There's going to be uh, in the future I'm going to be doing a lot more business, but this one's just more of a point.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is Facebook also a good platform for people to reach out to you if they want to offer support in any way?
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
best one.
Yeah, these can kind of be a large undertaking for folks to kind of like I said, kind of do something last minute and um yeah, and especially with emotions being high and everything. Um, yeah, do you have any bands already booked that you can share with us, or are you kind of thinking you're gonna wait to make that announcement?
I'm gonna wait to make the announcement. I'm still talking some stuff out with them. I know a few of the bands aren't, like I said, gonna be in town. And the there is one band I talked to. But I'm gonna wait to announce any of the musicians yet. I think I'm gonna do all that at once.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Sometimes I can pull juicy details out of people, but I won't push you too much. I know you're under a lot of pressure. Um, do you feel confident in your decision to put an event on this short of notice? Like
Um,
how do you feel?
uh, uh, well, since I already know that I'm not, doing it for the money, I think it makes it a lot easier because I'm
Yeah.
not stressing about having to make money back. A lot of people that'll throw a show, they have to worry about making the money back. And that's not a thing. I think it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I can definitely see that kind of taking a level of pressure off. Um, well, yeah, well, I think that's all I have for you. Do you have any other final thoughts or anything you'd like to share with our listeners? Yeah,
Um, no, I can't think of anything at the moment. It's my brain's been a fog.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I think that's a really also normal reaction to kind of feel a brain fog along with the eating and the drinking aspects when things kind of rock us to our core. So yeah, no, totally understand that. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. And I would really love it if you would make sure that when you do make these announcements, they get into our hands. We would love to help spread the word about it to our audience. And we wish you all the best on putting this event together and as well as taking care of yourself.
yes, absolutely. Thank you, and I wish the same for you. Thank you for doing this, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, y'all. Woo. I took some time to ask our listeners in the Discord chat this, but I'm gonna pose this same question to everybody listening who may not have joined us in the chat. What are you going to do to take care of yourself after listening to this episode? Kind of like Neon Dion and I discussed, I think it's only natural to have some really strong feelings after listening to this, while listening to this, before listening to this, tomorrow, next week. It's all very valid. And I think big feelings are a lot of the reasons that this has turned into a bloodbath in some way. And I really just hope everybody's taking time to take care of themselves. Yeah, I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you need someone to talk to, please don't hesitate to reach out to your local rape crisis line or mental health crisis line. You can just search those words and then the biggest city near you, or you can go to rain.org, RAINN. There's a lot of chat options as well as audio call options. Sometimes reaching out to a hotline for the first time can be a little scary or intimidating, or maybe the thought crosses your mind, that's not for me, but that's for other people. But those programs are equipped with people who know how to hold space. And, you can turn to a friend, you can turn to a family member, an ally, or anybody. But I'm really going to encourage some of y'all, if you're just having some emotions to process, to go ahead and reach out to a crisis line. They're trained professionals and on the other side, and they're there to help and they're there to support. And it's for, both survivors and people who love survivors. Really, just if you need any support, know that you're not alone. And if you have experienced any sort of gender-based violence, you are not alone. I believe you, and you're doing good. You're doing a good job. Keep your chin up. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Like I kind of alluded in the beginning, not kind of alluded, very, I guess, clearly stated. This isn't the episode or the story I thought I would be telling. It really just feels like a lot of people feel betrayed and hurt, whether it's by the promoters, whether it's by Nahko, or whether it's by each other. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done for all of us to heal and move forward from this. And I can't say what exactly accountability looks like. I can't say what exactly needs to be done, or what each person needs. I think, that's really left up to those who were directly harmed and the harm doer. And there's a lot of different resources out there for seeking accountability and justice. Justice looks different for each person. The criminal justice system isn't always the route. And regardless of if you ever chose to make a police report, or if you chose to not, that does not invalidate or change the truth of your story, of your victimization. You're doing good. You're doing good, my friend. And I really hope that after tonight's episode, we can all treat everybody with a little bit more love. And believe survivors, folks. Thanks for listening.